you played the other day. You played club cricket the other day with, I'm guessing, your dad and your brother. Was it a full family affair?
Nah, neither of them were playing.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, so it's like my little. I must play like 2 or 3 times a year for Mears Ashby. It is
Yeah,
my dad and my brother's club, but
yeah.
I think my brother was working and my dad was working as well. So neither of them were there to even watch. But yeah, it was a little midweek T20 vibe. Don't own any white pads, so I had to borrow my brother's, which, if I had to give them a rating of protection out of 10, would probably be about 3. And they
Mm,
were like falling apart, like where the knee roll is. And I
yeah.
strapped one around my leg and I was like, it's literally like
Mm.
falling apart. And I wear like a youth size pad, and these were like adult men, so they were a little bit big. They were really squeaky as well, and I was really conscious of the fact that they were squeaking. I had my Sunrisers helmet on, so I looked like even more of a chop
Oh,
in
I
club
love it.
cricket.
Did you
Honestly,
have did you have your spiked up Nikes on as well? Your
oh
red ones?
no, because you can't wear black spikes with whites, can you? So I had
I
to
mean, you've walked out there with a Sunriser's lid on, Joe.
get.
I mean, there's no shame going right now.
That would have been too rogue. Thankfully, I do have a pair of just white New Balance ones, so I did
Lovely.
make sure I put those ones on instead. But I was playing with a pink ball,
Yeah.
which I don't think I've done since I was probably like under 15s or something rogue. We played 20 overs, but I mean we should have only played 16 because it was so dark and we batted second. Like there was one point in the first innings when I was fielding under like a tree, so obviously there was a bit darker when you're fielding underneath a tree, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I honestly felt like my eyes were just like so hyper focused on where the ball's going that I actually had like some kind of eye strain after the innings because I was like, what is going on? Yeah, we batted second, so obviously, I mean, the light just deteriorated, but thankfully I opened, so I did get the best of it. It was really rogue though. Opened the batting and opened the bowling and bowled 4 overs straight at the start of the
I mean,
innings.
I mean, if I was club captain and somebody told me there was a pro cricketer turning up, you are going to be doing the absolute like heavy lifting in this team. Like you will be opening the batting, you will be opening the bowling. No pressure, Joe, but that's your role.
Yeah, despite not bowling a ball in about 3 weeks, I was loving it. I was up for it. Um,
Still probably better qualified than a lot of club cricketers about. Maybe not so much at your club, but than a lot of others. I suspect you probably bowled a bit more than some.
yeah, yeah, maybe a little bit. I felt a bit sorry. Basically, there was it must have been like the fourth over or the third over, an over in between when I was bowling, and one of our guys literally got hit onto the road about 3 times. Went for like 30 in the over. This bloke was just absolutely
Ouch.
pogoing it, and I thought, oh, here we go. So I was then like my next over, I was still at the top of my mark, and I thought, well, he's got his iron now. There's only one way he's going. He's just going to try and send me to the road as well.
Yeah.
And I was actually getting a bit of turn and bounce, which was, yeah, again, rogue. And he's come charging down the wicket, and I've just beat him through the gate and got him out stumped. I was so satisfied. I was like,
Scenes.
tough to take, tough to
Little
take.
send off as well.
No send off, no
No.
selly, no send off. Didn't have it in me, but it was good fun. I did really
Yeah.
enjoy it, despite it, yeah, just being super dark. But it's always nice going back to club cricket and just taking it all in. I just it's just so funny. I love it.
Do you think like if your schedule allowed, would you play more if you could?
Yeah, I reckon I would. I say this to some of the guys at the club, and they're like, when are you next around? And I'm like,
Yeah.
honestly, it just depends on like my schedule and stuff. Because even like those Tuesday night like the midweek games, if we're
Yeah.
playing on like a Wednesday or whatever, then we'll obviously have training the day before, and that might see if we're playing at Northampton, then I could probably pop down and play in the evening. But like I said, this week, for example, I don't think there's a game anyway. But regardless, obviously we're playing on Wednesday, so Training on Tuesday is in the afternoon or whatever, but it's obviously in Chelmsford, so I can't exactly rock back up and play in Northampton in the evening. But I would definitely play more if the schedule did allow, but obviously it's quite difficult when it's your job to be a pro for the season or whatever. But it's good fun. I do like returning to Mears Ashby to play a few times.
I think so. The question or the potential kind of points that I wanted to kind of talk about with you for it, and to kind of, I think it'd be really good actually to kind of get a professional's kind of view on it. And I think there's a lot of things that you might come up with and just turn and say, well, it's completely not feasible. But with how club cricket is now, you obviously mentioned there, like you played pretty much in the dark, you played with a pink ball, you played in whites. There'll be a lot of other things to kind of talk about. There'll be like, do people have tees now? Should people still play win, lose, or draw cricket? Should it be coloured kits? Should it be 40 overs? Should it all be 20? There's a whole load of things to talk about. And I want to kind of get your thoughts and your feelings on, if you could, like if you had kind of a blank kind of page to start with, as a professional, with all of the things that you have access to and been exposed to and everything like that, and I suppose within the realms of reality as well, but what would you make club cricket to be today, knowing what you know as a professional, and obviously one that kind of comes back to club cricket every now and again as well?
First and foremost, it's just win or lose. Like, you're not playing test match cricket. We don't need to worry about drawing in club cricket. Win or lose, and then you're making sure everyone's playing for a result, aren't you? Rather than seeing old mate Andy with 20 overs to go, 200 away from the target, just standing there and blocking it, because that is just not entertaining nor fun for anyone on that pitch. Now, I'm willing to be challenged
as well. Is that because, like, obviously a lot of like Premier Leagues around will play kind of half and half, and the only logic I can think is because somewhere in the deep distant past, Premier League cricketers would have been like the next kind of cab off the rank to go and play first class cricket for their respective counties. Now, obviously, counties have got like oversubscribed second 11s and academy teams that, in reality, if you play Prem cricket and you're not already part of one of those structures, the chance of you suddenly kind of going, "Oh, hiya, Jim. Yeah, it's Dave here from Sussex. Are you around on Thursday? Because we've got Durham in the Championship. Do you think you could pop up to Chester Street and play?" That probably doesn't happen now, and dare I say, probably hasn't happened for a long time. Do you still need all three results in almost one day Prem cricket? Because I'd say no.
I would say no. I mean, obviously, I'm not a male that's been in a Prem cricket environment, so there's probably a lot of people that might be in opposition to that. But I feel like in the circumstance where you potentially get somebody that's playing Prem cricket into one of the county setups, for example, I feel like that's more likely to happen on the T20 and white ball side of it rather than the red ball side of it. So if someone's absolutely gunning it in Prem cricket in the T20s or whatever, like, they're then more likely to get picked up. I know that in it's a little side tangent, but I think it's in Queensland, in Brisbane, one of the Premier League, like the Premier League T20 competitions over there, they genuinely pick like someone from that competition, like a clubby competition, for the heat. Now, I don't know if you remember, but there's a guy called Josh Brown who has played for the Heat for the last couple of years. He basically came through that competition. So they picked him because of him absolutely gunning it in the T20. I'm pretty sure that is right. I remember when I was over there that was what got told to me. And I was like, do you know what? Fair play. Taking a chance on someone to see how they go in the pro game. I don't know the scope of that happening over here, but I just thought it was a nice little way of going about getting someone a franchise opportunity potentially. But yeah, 40 or 45 overs seems about right. but then you obviously have the 50 over World Cup. So would you want it to be aligned with the rest of global cricket? I don't know. That bit's probably up for debate. Coloured kit, I'm here for coloured kit, but then I don't know, maybe your Sunday friendlies, you're playing whites. I'm not really sure. But then if you're playing in coloured kit, you lose the classic traditional red ball, don't you? And I know that that's obviously a strong tie to club cricket, but then you look at when red balls are used in cricket around the world, and that's only in longer format cricket. So there are many different kind of sides to the debate, aren't there? But
yeah, I mean, so from my perspective, and I as you said, you're not a male that has ever played Premier League cricket, and neither am I. So there's a lot of things that a lot of people could turn around and say, well, I'm not qualified to speak on, and that's completely understandable. I think coloured kit, I don't really think matters for anybody that's already playing kind of men's club cricket right now. I don't think it really has any impact. Like we played whites on Saturday for limited overs cricket, which I do think is wrong. And then we played coloured kits, but you could play in whites if you wanted to for the midweek like Sussex Slam competition that we play in, which is good, and I think that adds a nice addition. We use pink balls, which obviously then means that you don't have to have black sight screens and all this other kind of stuff, which is useful. But I think when it comes to coloured kits in particular, when you've got your under 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s, etc., that are being swept up by the current T20 World Cup, that have been taken down to Hove or Hampshire for a blast night, and they've maybe watched a double header, and they've watched the Vipers girls playing bright orange, and then they've watched the Hampshire blokes playing bright yellow, and then they get that kind of like, oh, do you think you'll be ready to play twos this week? And everyone goes, yeah. And they go, men's cricket, wow. Because I think a lot of the kids at my club play in blue shirts, play their cricket in blue shirts. And then they go, yeah, well, the thing is you've now got to go to the shop and get cricket wise. And at that point there, I struggle with that relatability for that next generation coming through to suddenly go, coloured kit, coloured kit, coloured kit. My heroes, my icons play in coloured kits, and I've got to go and play in whites. That I really struggle with. The balls, I'm sure lots of different leagues use lots of different ones, but the ones that we use are garbage. Like they swing for about 5 overs and then they're pointless. So I don't really think, apart from like the iconic kind of, oh, here's a nice photo of club cricket, which no bugger turns up to watch anyway and takes photos of it anymore anyway. So Red Bull doesn't really kind of provide much weight or much value to it anymore either. Like we can't afford like a 120-pound Dukes that's going to swing around, and if you look after it nice, it's going to keep swinging, then it might reverse later in the innings. Firstly, we can't afford it. Secondly, most people playing club cricket will have no idea of how to maintain and manage a cricket ball anyway. And thirdly, just give us like a pink ball for the whole thing. It'll make everybody's life so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right on the coloured kit side of things. Just that kind of relatability that young kids in particular obviously have. Like when you look across other sports and replicas, like replica shirt sales, for example, like they just go through the roof and they like love it. And I mean, I'm guilty of enjoying a replica shirt of most sports, to be fair. I quite enjoy it. So like it's just not as appealing, is it, to just wear white? Like I know it's traditional, and I'm sat here with a photo of me and my brother on the wall behind me in our whites playing club cricket. But in terms of ensuring, and we speak about it a lot, keeping that younger generation engaged in the game, like coloured kits is something that feels quite simple to throw into the mix, and like you say, use a pink ball or whatever. It feels quite simple. Like there's so many suppliers as well out there these days. Design it how you want to design it. Make it as funky as possible, and increase the appeal of wanting to get involved.
Completely agree. T? Where do you stand on tea? I know you as we said, professional athlete. Like you're not going to be walking off the field scoffing like 3 slices of Victoria sponge, maybe 2 or 3 scones or scones, depending on where you are in the world, with like clotted cream and strawberries on the top, with a bag of Haribo's and mini cheddars, and then whatever kind of sandwiches that have been made up. Like that. That's obviously not. You're like protein shakes, energy bars, gels, and all this other good stuff. Club cricket teas, yay or nay?
Firstly, you're within the Sunrisers. There are a lot of people that enjoy baking, right? So we do often frequent a baked good in a Tupperware box in the changing room. So they are never out of the question. And also, we are guilty of enjoying a Haribo or a Percy Pig from time to time. So, yeah, there is that. And I think teas should be a yay because I feel like they're an enjoyable part of the club cricket experience. And it just seems like everybody's sat there with their own little Tupperware because they've prepared their lunch themselves or they've had to pop and get a meal deal on their way to the ground. Yeah. That just seems a bit sad, doesn't it? Food unites people and brings people together. Let them enjoy their tea. Great British tea. Lovely little beige buffet.
Perfect. Sausage rolls, cocktail sausages, pork pies, the usual, as you said, a beige buffet. I think you kind of run the risk of kind of discrediting wearing whites and then kind of go down the traditionalist route of cricket teas. But I think it's not something I've ever had to do. Like I've not had to prepare a cricket tea. Which I think is probably for the best, really, for everybody concerned. I'm not convinced the second innings would go particularly well if I was in charge of like making that. But I can imagine like that is such a commitment of time for somebody, for a couple of people to actually kind of put that on for everybody. And I don't necessarily think it should be a gatekeeping thing to stop cricket happening, if that makes sense. Like I don't think tea should be mandatory. But if there are some people there that really take pride in what they do, then go for it 100 mile an hour. Just absolutely smash it out. But don't force people if it's not like in their remit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Because a good tea is so good, and a bad tea is honkingly bad. Is there anything else really that kind of you think would genuinely work from the professional game to come over into the amateurs?
I mean, wouldn't it be great if the umpires could all just wear GoPros and we can see unbelievable footage like Paul Coughlin taking that catch in the blast yesterday? That'd be some serious clubby footage going around, wouldn't there? Obviously, that is more of a logistical challenge, and I'm just pretending that there's no budget that exists. I don't know. Was there something else you mentioned that I should consider? Overs, tea, kit.
Was there anything else? I suppose the one big thing and probably the most important thing for cricketers, full stop, is going to be the 22 yards that people play on. And I don't know what the wicket's like at your home grounds. I would imagine it's night and day difference compared to a lot of places that you play cricket. Having had the pleasure of kind of walking out to various middles and just kind of seeing a professional square in comparison to an amateur square. But how good could an amateur square get, if that makes sense? But they're not going to have a team. Like that day I came to Lords, like there must have been about 20 people kicking around, like moving ropes and pushing mowers about. Like that isn't feasible in club cricket. Like it's normally one person.
Yeah, so many volunteers, isn't there, in the kind of grassroots game that they're just a lot of them are unsung heroes, really, aren't they? They don't get the recognition they probably deserve. And how much work goes into getting that game on a Saturday is, yeah, ridiculous. There's probably 2 or 3 people that help with the ground issues, management, whatever it is at the club cricket level, you would probably guess. And like you say, compared to a first class ground or a county setup, people are getting paid for that to be their job, to ensure that the pros are getting the best wickets possible they can play in. And sometimes, as we've seen in the World Cup, particularly at the New York Stadium, the wickets and stuff haven't been what the pros, particularly the batters in international cricket, have been necessarily used to. So I think the more important part is just ensuring that there's a way to ensure that the game gets on. And if you've got people that are willing volunteers to give up their time to help prepare a pitch because they're passionate about playing the game that we all love, that's just the crucial part, isn't it? You can't moan too much about the pitch when it's been done by volunteers.